Welcome to Talkin the Gridiron, your ultimate destination for all things NFL. We're here to deep dive into the heart of football, breaking down the action, the strategies, and the stories that make the NFL so electrifying. From the Sunday showdowns to Monday Night Magic, we're covering every touchdown, tackle, and timeout. So grab your game day snacks, settle into your favorite chair, and join us as we navigate the highs and lows of the gridiron, where the game is always on and the conversation never stops.
And we are live here with you, Talking the Gridiron, Variety Sports Network here, Week 10 reaction. A lot of crazy games to get into, a ton of them here. We got Jimmy, the professor, this week, as we see there at the Professor of Football Knowledge, has the notes. He's ready to go today. I like it. Brian Johnson, he's back on, gets a big win with the Niners there. We'll get into that as well. Touch on that game absolutely as one of the games of the day. But first, a little shout out to the troops here on Veterans Day weekend. A little shout out to you guys. Appreciate everything you guys do for our country. Obviously, it allows us to enjoy games on Sunday. A little Texans Lions here on a Sunday night. If it wasn't for those guys out there doing all the hard lifting for us, so shout out to Veterans Day there with it, Jimmy. Good to be with you again here this week, sir.
Yes, it's a good week. November brings a lot. It brings playoff football. I'm getting ready to go out to Tulsa for a national tournament with my little guys. So we're screaming towards that. And then right after that's over, I got wrestling season, middle school championships, first week of December. Then I'm coaching wrestling until July is, I think, when I stop actually coaching wrestling and start coaching football again. So November is fun, but the Veterans Day, I mean, I always really liked playing in November because not everybody gets to. This is when Colorado does their playoffs for their high school, and it was always a badge of honor and a really cool moment. If you play on Veterans Day, even better, but just getting to play, and then also, that's something that a lot of teams talk about. That's something that a lot of people throughout a lot of locker rooms have in common, is some sort of family member in service. I mean, everybody has that tie. If we don't have our service members, we don't have the ability to do what we do, and we're all pretty close to one that we know of, and that's Jordan, who served in the Marine Corps. But all branches, any level of service, anybody who is able to go through and willingly make that sacrifice. Big shout out to the Army and Navy football teams for killing it in the college football season. Army might end up undefeated and possibly getting the 5th seed in the college football playoff for the first year of the 12-team playoff. But my favorite line comes from that Army-Navy game, and they say it before every time they kick off. It is the only game all college football season where everybody playing in it would willingly and did willingly make the sacrifice to put their life on the line for everybody watching it. So I love the service academies. This is a great time of year, and Veterans Day is obviously a very special day for everybody to remember. And
no doubt with that, kind of like we said, like with all those, like with November being so busy with Veterans Day, those troops, like we said, Jordan Maxson, who obviously you brought up. I love that you brought up his name. He's always been kind of supportive of the show. I actually sent him the link, so maybe he'll jump on with us tonight as well. As he knows, he's always invited. Johnson, we got you back as well. I got Texans 10-0, a little hot start against the Lions tonight.
The Lions are driving right now, so
still early. We'll keep you updated. We're starting a little earlier tonight.
Rocky won the first 2 rounds against Clubber Lang in the first fight. Just remember that he won the first round and a half against Clubber Lang.
And this is where the Lions have been good all year, right? This is like they're no, like, are they? Is it they're the clear one in the NFC, right? There's nobody else close to them, right? Like they're the clear one. Like, it's hard for me to say, like, oh, these other teams, yeah, they could beat them. That's always fair to say, but they are the clear one. I think is like they've proven it a little bit through this part of the season. But tonight we'll see if they can come back against a tough team here in Houston.
Yeah, so. I mean, any like football, so anything could change. So,
but I think the Lions right now are the obvious best team in the NFC as of today.
That's correct.
And the resume that they put together and the performances that they've had over the season, like that win against Green Bay, was probably their biggest one to date, because they were able to stonewall people and turn into the bully. And they're also that team. Dan Campbell is like one of those old Italian fighters that just likes to get punched in the face a little bit. So not that he wants to go down 10-0, but if there's a team that's mentally tough enough and welcomes adversity more than the Detroit Lions, please come show me who that is, because I have not found them this football season.
It'd be a big win for the Texans too if they can get a win like this.
It's not a must win,
but
because that division is terrible. But it's a statement win, and it does give you a little bit of a buffer from those really bad teams, because those bad teams in December can have wacky shit happen. Like Mac Jones started an NFL game today, gentlemen. Did we realize that? That was the quarterback in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence was hurt.
We will spend not a ton of time on that one.
No, I don't want to talk about that game at all. That was a terrible game, but I'm just saying Mac Jones is starting football games again. What the hell?
I want to talk about their helmets more than anything.
Basically, Darnold is the luckiest man alive right now.
The Samuelson is getting pretty lucky. Another team that you would say is getting lucky. Should we get it up on the board here? Is Jimmy here with Denver. Denver looking like they have a 35-yard field goal attempt.
Kick to win it. Oh! Blocked! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won!
Okay.
The great Kevin Harlan on
I was
the call.
going to say, there's a few things about this whole thing. You guys are WWE fans, and I'm sure that you watched during this era. Nico told me to deliver this message specifically in this fashion. Can I have your attention, please? I was just given a message from our anonymous, disgruntled Bronco fan.
That's right.
He says, F the Chiefs. I hate that team so much. F the refs and F the Chiefs. Disgruntled Broncos fan. So that's number one. I had to make sure that I got a quote. I reached out to one of my sources, and I needed to make sure that I got that out there. Kevin Harlan being the call of this, and first and foremost, take everything out of who's playing in this game. This was a very competitive, and even though there wasn't a whole lot of points scored, like there was a lot that you were able. We watched this one from start to finish in my house today. We were putting up some of the Christmas decorations. Christmas tree is not up yet, but we're getting more like my mom likes to make a winter wonderland. So that's what we were doing a little bit early. But we were putting up some lights and everything. We sat down, we watched this one from start to finish. Broncos did play a great game, but again, like the biggest thing that stands out to me in this one is that when you needed big plays, you give up the pressure and your rookie quarterback decides to run 16 yards backward instead of just throwing the ball out of bounds. He's terrified to make an intentional grounding throw right now. So it's all out of whack for him, and he'd rather take all of those sacks. But you have receivers, Cortland Sutton dropping wide open passes. He had the one touchdown catch that you're showing right now. Yeah. But I would say that it's time to move on from Cortland Sutton. He's a captain on this team. But what is he going to do? You're not going to pay him again. You can't pay him again with the current financial situation that this team has. I wrote down, I have a list of people that I think it's time to get rid of. But I think it's right now it's Sutton, Humphrey, because Lil Jordan is a turnover machine. Dulcich, because he has not been on the field long enough to matter, and Troutman and Kroll are making up for his absence. Javonte Williams is just too injury prone, and you're going to have to start paying him. Maybe McLaughlin, because you saw what you had in Audric Estime today. They played a very good game. It's a very solid game, but they still had missed assignments. They still had bad blocking. They still got beaten one-on-ones. And when their players needed to step up and make a play, when their rookie quarterback is doing everything right and making all of the correct plays. And by the way, if that situation goes the way that it does, I'll say 96% of the time, because I'll give them about a 4% chance that they block that kick. We're not sitting here we're talking about as the Chiefs lost their first game of the season, and it was to a rookie quarterback. First time that they've lost to a rookie quarterback in, I think, 9 straight games that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid have gone up against him. They did a lot of things well, but this team is just not very talented. They don't have the dudes to make up for, they could play teams pretty even almost all throughout. Last week, the Ravens, that was like a whole different story. They got after Bo Nix, and Bo Nix ended up having his worst game. This week, I think the team rebounded. Bo Nix rebounded. He put the team in a very good situation to win. He put the ball on the hash mark that your kicker decided to put it on. And you unfortunately have your weakest offensive lineman, like guy that is, if he is not cut or put down to practice squad first thing in the morning, and you guys probably
that was too easy.
Dude,
you're right. That
54, 54. Alex Forsythe. I will say his name because this is probably one of the last few times that we'll be able to say his name as an NFL lineman again. Chernell, oh my God. Like, as an offensive lineman, a linebacker doing that to you on PAT is disgraceful. You flat back so hard that like 5 guys got their hand on that kick. And Will Lutz, you're a moron putting it on the right hash. Put it in the middle. If you put it in the middle, it's just an extra point, and they can't line up some weird block or load up certain gaps where they know that you got to fish. That's what Trinell said after the game. He said, I took those few times where they're kicking extra points after their touchdowns. I'm trying to figure out who's the weak one. And they picked out Alex Forsythe. We had it on our scouting report in college. Don't be the fish on somebody else's scouting report. Well, guess what? Alex Forsythe is a fish.
I was thinking with this too, as you kind of made some really good points there about how the Chiefs kind of looked at it more, and that's where special teams makes a difference.
I'm really sick and tired of having Mahomes go nuts over every win too. That's getting really
well. He plays like
such
shit nowadays. It is kind of like a huge feat for them to win football games.
They stay undefeated, so I posed it on the question. I mean, they're 9-0 though, boys, and they have. You got to be honest. One of the greatest traits you can have in any sport is how to close games. It doesn't matter. It doesn't always matter how great it looks during. If you can win the last 5 minutes, when Jimmy, I'll get you. Let you finish it out here. Is the last two when you get to the last two possessions, right? That is where it usually always comes down to. In almost any sport, at the end, can you finish? And right now, they're better than anybody. So I pose the question to you, as you make other points with it: is can they go undefeated? Is that? I mean, they're 9-0 and they have magic. Is there a way this happens? No.
No, they're not going to go undefeated because the team that was almost about to go undefeated last was not doing what this Kansas City Chiefs team is doing. This Kansas City Chiefs team, I'm gonna give you, there was a team from 2022 that was 13-3, but they had one really big flaw going into the playoffs. Do you guys remember who I'm talking about? It's an NFC team, so you guys probably have a little bit more. I'll narrow it down that way. NFC team, they went 13-3, had a lot of issues. Nobody really trusted in their quarterback. Not the Packers, same division though.
Lions.
Not the Lions. It was the Minnesota Vikings in 2022. They were 13-3. 11 of those 13 wins came within less than a score. If you look at the Chiefs this year, they have 9 wins, and I think of those 9 wins, 7 of them. So it's the same ratio. They have 2 wins that were by more than I gave them a touchdown. So if it was by more than 7 points, I gave it to them and didn't count that in there. If this was any other team besides Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, this is not being talked about as a team that really knows how to finish. Because guess what? That Vikings team for the majority of the season showed that they really knew how to finish.
But that's what makes it so dangerous, right? Is that Mahomes Reid ability? That's what it is. That's what it is.
But they're playing with fire. Nobody is a god. Nobody is perfect. Nobody can willingly throw their face in front of the flamethrower as many times as these guys have. I'll go all the way back to the first, I think it was the first or second championship run. You guys remember that championship run where they went down by double digits in every single playoff game moving forward? They've ran out of their damn 9 lives. They are fucking around.
I hope you're right.
I don't know if it will be this specific season, okay? But they are not playing. This is not sustainable, successful football. And I think that they will tell you that too.
I agree with you. I'll just say this. It's like at some point, though, you just kind of like start to – I think other teams start to feel that a little bit because of that. Think of it with the Brady-Belichick factor. That's kind of the closest thing we had with them. So teams are starting to go to that. As we finish it up, that conversation, this was my favorite play from the game. Was the return here. It took about 95 seconds to get done there. But I hear what you're saying, Jimmy. They are when you play every game this close, eventually when you get to the playoffs, that you get burned. And so I hear you on that part. There's only so many lies you get. So I think that's a fair point.
Think about the Eagles last year. They were 10-0 and winning games kind of in similar fashion where everybody sucked, but they just figured out a way to win it at the end, and they tailed off at the end. I feel like they're going to run out of steam at some point. They are losing everybody left and right, and they lost Worthy today. I don't think that he finished the game after he tried to go up for that one deep ball. Great credit to them for getting Hopkins. That was a great move. We talked about it on our show on Thursday. I have no idea what the Titans were thinking because that's just adding a new engine to a brand new Ferrari. It makes no sense, but it runs even better now. And he had a couple big plays. The Broncos played well enough to win, but the Broncos didn't play a perfect game, and they didn't do like in the NFL, you pretty much play even. Every game is within a possession, and it comes down to who has the guys, who has the dudes that can make an extra couple plays and put you in positions to win. And, a couple other teams that we're going to talk about got some of those dudes back, and they were very successful today. So the Broncos I don't think that it would hurt as bad if we didn't get the doors blown off of us last week and then followed up with almost a perfect game and still lose by 2 on a blocked field goal with literally 1 second left on the clock. I feel like there's a lot of demons that are going to be worked out in Atlanta. I don't feel like there's not a team that
better.
Well, here's the thing. If you're in the NFL and you're not looking at this as this is the moment to go fuck up the Chiefs, then you're in the wrong sport. There's few teams that probably can't do that. But if you're a team that's contending, if you're a team that thinks you have playoff aspirations, you better have the mindset. If they have the mindset, what you were mentioning, that we can't beat this team, bullshit. This is the best chance you have to beat this team.
Jimmy,
and that's the only way that it's going to happen. If you continue to think that you're going to lose, that's just what's going to happen. I think the Chiefs haven't won half of these games over the last 6 years. The other rest of the teams in the NFL have given them to them.
You're talking about the red. No, it's okay. There's a lot of memes going around again today about that. You're right about the Chiefs. I'll give you those are some fair points. We'll see what happens here as we kind of move forward with it. The Chiefs again, will they stay undefeated? Who knows? They got a great chance to obviously win the division, get the 1 seed. We'll see if that is what.
Hey, they still got to play your Raiders again, don't they?
They do. The Broncos beat them last year in KC, I believe it was, and so they played them tough again. A 35-yard field goal, that's all you can ask for Brian Johnson to win a game, and they just couldn't get the job done. So the Chiefs just have this magic. And like I said, my fear is that they'll win the Super Bowl. Like, to me, one of the worst Super Bowls in recent history was Patriots-Rams, right? 17-3 or something like that. So my fear is that they'll just methodically beat a team to death. So hopefully that doesn't happen in that regard. So we got to that. And then Brian, let's get to your Niners here real quick. Moody, we'll get the nice play. They had a beautiful play to Kittle here in the corner of the end zone for the touchdown. Moody looks absolutely pathetic for you guys, but he does bank it home there at the end to give you guys the win in overtime. Those wins are the most stressful ones when your kicker is absolutely making everything miserable on you. You're like, come on, man. Everything tough. Purdy played very well today in the game. Baker, we'll get to some of his highlights as well. He really battled. Kind of an old school Brett Favre type effort in that regard. You kind of think of just a gunslinger, not playing well, that makes a few plays at the end to keep him in it. But Purdy keeps him on track. You get CMC back. He had 107 yards total offense today. How you feeling after this one? 5-4 now. Still a game behind the Cards as they win against the Jets. But how are you feeling about it had to be one of the more stressful games of the year?
Good news, Faithful. Good news. We finally have an asshole that could call people out. His name is Deebo Samuel. We finally have somebody that can call players out.
You mean being
shitty? And I'm so pumped right now because
don't go after the long snapper. How dare you go after the long snapper?
You better leave the long snapper alone. If you have issues with the kicker, you better take that up with the kicker directly. You go after the long snapper, I'm going to have an issue with it.
But it just feels like with this team, nobody ever gets called out. I feel
I hear you.
Finally somebody.
You like a little fire. You like a little fire.
Yeah.
Here's the issue, and now I'm going to start backing up on one of Johnson's other points, is that they don't take well to the criticism because their head coach doesn't take well to criticism at all. Whenever anybody tries to talk to Kyle Shanahan about his issues or his woes that he's had, he always tries to shirk it and not talk about it, and that's a lot of what this team has. But Deebo, I was going in and out of this game because it was on at the same time as a couple others that I was watching. When I just saw the highlight, you know how the different networks make it. They made it seem like Deebo was just pissed that he wasn't getting the touches that he wanted or something like that. He just went over and shoved the first guy that he found. If this is a special teams issue that the 49ers are dealing with, then I can see it as I see it differently, and I'll have a different take on it. I didn't realize that was, you obviously follow them more than anybody, Brian. So I had no idea that was what the issue was.
I do find it funny that with that, as I get it kind of on the stage here.
But I feel like finally we had one of these games that we came out ahead. So that's the way I'm looking at this, with the glasses half full, and we have Greenlaw coming back, and CMC's only going to get more comfortable. I mean, this is his first game back, so I
know you were positive Johnson as well this morning on Fat Boy Fade. You're trying to go the way, and I think you have some, like I said, you guys have talent, so you should feel positive. I do got to think that you are concerned about some things that have to get cleaned up. Your special teams have to. I mean, it's costing you almost it almost cost you the whole game today, right? 3 missed field goals. You had the little fumble there, that part of the unit. what the hell, Johnson? Like, they are not – you're right. Debo, whatever it's worth, great job. Way to fire him up. But they are kind of – it's crazy to think special teams are costing you guys, like, maybe your season. It's crazy that unit is possibly costing you guys the season because of how bad they have been. So I think Debo is right in that. But, like, you got to be a little concerned about that. They got to clean up special teams. They have to.
Yeah, I mean, the either, get rid of the special teams coordinator and get somebody else in there or figure something out, because I know Cowling had that big return, but other than that, it just seemed like special teams was just it has been our Achilles heel this year.
Oh, it's been absolutely just murdering you guys. How much have I missed? Dang it. No, we're kind of still here. We're on game 2 of Game of the Day. We just talked a little bit about KC beating the Broncos there a little bit. Yes, Cardinals fan here. Whoa, are we should we double up, Johnson, today?
Shout out Pat Tillman on Veterans Day, by the way.
Yeah, Pat Tillman, you're right. Veterans Day, shout out to that as well. I know Brian wants to shoot this bird on my hat, so there's a little Brian wants to take
you better watch out. They look pretty damn good too.
They do look good. What do you guys think of Baker, though, a little bit, Brian? Like I said, he was a gutsy performance from him. They almost beat the Bucks, or they almost beat the Chiefs last week.
I don't know what Bosa was doing. Well, I don't know what Bosa was doing there. Just throw him over your head into the end zone, into the sideline.
He really planted that flag right in the middle of his chest, that Oklahoma flag right in the middle of that Buckeye right there.
Right there. I was laughing I was at Papa's Pizza watching today. It was crazy actually there today. Oh, no, like there was like this play that like had a life of its own because he's like dragging him for like 4 seconds. And then he makes this miracle throw, like a Hail Mary-esque, basically to get it going. So I don't know, like Baker is kind of like this interesting. It's funny to think that the Panthers had him and Sam Darnold, and we'll get to say it a little bit. But like Baker's really, the one thing you give him this, right? He's at least gutsy, right, Jimmy? He's gonna compete.
Leader. He is a professional quarterback that can get you in good positions. He can also make some bad plays. We get so enamored with the guys that do this at such a high level, and that's great. He's not a guy that's going to be very top tier, and that's always going to follow him around because he's number 1 overall pick, but he's a guy that is very solid and in the right situation can have a good season. I think that these last couple weeks come down a lot to coaching, and I think the NFC South as a whole has come a lot down to coaching and who's getting better and who's gotten worse, and we already saw one of those coaches get fired. I think Todd Bowles should be the next guy fired in the NFL. Like, how do you not go for 2 last Monday, and then you come out here and your team does as much as they can, and you sit down and prevent, you let them get into a situation where they put their awful field goal kicker for this season out there, and you still end up losing. Your team is literally pouring their guts out on the line for you. It pisses me off. It makes me sick to see a coach like watch his guys give everything that they possibly can on the field and just not give a shit to care about them and move them forward. Like, he's doing a lot of really good things with a team that's very banged up. He doesn't have Mike Evans. He doesn't have Chris Godwin, and they're in these games and they're in the contention for number 1 in the NFC South, depending on how Atlanta is able to bounce back from today. It's huge for them, but Todd Bowles is going to be their Achilles heel. That's who's going to hold them back. He's never been a good head coach. Never. All the way back to his Jets days.
It's going to be interesting what happens with the Niners here, Brian. Like I said, they have to get.
I mean, it was a win, but we definitely need to clean some stuff up going forward.
But like you said, at least you didn't lose this one like you did with the Cardinals. You did the Rams when you actually got the win. If you lose this one, then you have to fly all the way back. You guys got a little bit of a tough schedule coming up here in a little bit where you got to go at Green Bay, at Buffalo.
Seattle, we're their daddy right now.
Well, Seattle, I'm not counting. Seattle's going to be a big division game, though. You'll see that with it. That will be a big one. That will say a lot about where you guys are at. Like, don't lose a third division team, right? You got to beat them. I'm happy for Baker. He kind of seemed on the way out. Tampa was a saving grace. And as a quarterback, as you guys all know, you got to be in that right situation a little bit too. Like, it does matter to be in the right situation, or it just doesn't work out well. You know who's maybe in a right situation is Russell Wilson in the right situation, and the Steelers.
Why is he so willing to play this way with Mike Tomlin, but isn't willing to play this way with any other coach? That literally this is the same blueprint that they used to roll out there in Seattle when they won their Super Bowl. He plays like shit. He throws like 4 deep bombs, and their defense keeps them as close as they can, and that's exactly how this game played out. Like, they're 3 really good throws but those are the only really good throws that he has. And his receivers, like this team is so wild. And Deontay Johnson and George Pickens specifically is so wild because he'll make ungodly catches. And this is the Mike Williams one, which is kind of insane to think that he showed up.
Yeah.
He showed up 3 days before on the trade deadline and then able to pull this off, not knowing that the ball's coming to him. But
yeah, great
George Pickens, going back years now, has been like the biggest mental and head case, yet they're winning football games. I did not pick them for this one. I'm disappointed because the Steelers won and they get another game. They're still holding on to that lead in the division. I would never have picked them coming into this season knowing that Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are their options at quarterback as teams that would be in the lead for this AFC North. But I didn't pick the Bengals to be as poor as they are record-wise. I didn't pick the Ravens to be as poor as they are record-wise. For whatever reason, the Steelers are the ones. They have the guys on defense that are able to keep it close enough, but there's just the Commanders are still, I think, in that stretch where they're trying to learn how to win games and really hold on to and play that way all the time. They're still young.
And you got Daniel's injury from a few weeks. He looks okay still, but I think he is fighting a little bit of that too. Johnson, I kind of I put it on X there Twitter before we jumped on the show. I said because I feel like I picked him to get in the 7th seed or 6th seed, whatever it was. I did one of those seeds to make the playoffs this year. So I did believe in making the playoff, but that's more just because of the Pittsburgh charm, I guess you would call it, more than anything else in there. But now they go to what? Were they 7-2 now? Is that what they moved to now? 7-2. They're top in that division. Are they legit Super Bowl threats? Like I've heard some people say, like they're the best team. They have the best chance to beat KC. Like I don't know. I don't feel that way. I want to get more into that part of it a little bit, but like, do you think the Steelers, Brian, are a legit threat to make the Super Bowl in the AFC? Or is that too far?
I mean, they have the defense that could shut down the Chiefs in the playoffs out of the.
But do they have the offense? I think you trust Russell enough.
I mean, the one thing you can say with Russell in the playoffs is the guy is clutch. I mean, he's just a thorn in your side. I remember that from being a Niners fan.
Yeah, he does have a little magic to him once in a while there.
Yeah.
So if you had to go 1 to 10, 10 being the best chance to make the Super Bowl, how are you feeling in the rating there? What do you give them?
Because of the record, I'd probably have to give them a 7 or 8 right now.
All right, I'm starting to I'm a 6 right now, but I'm starting to get a little higher in terms of like actual Super Bowl threat. Jimmy, what do you think?
I think they're about a 5.
Right,
I think
you're right.
It will be tough throughout, but this thing can go off the rails really quickly because it's tough to constantly trust that process, and it's tough for these other offensive players to struggle for 3/4 of a game. You're rope-a-doping every single week, which the issue with rope-a-dope and boxing is the same issue that you're going to run into with the locker room, is that at some point you're going to be punched in the face enough times that you're just sick of it. So Tomlin is a good coach to have in this situation, but I think at some point George Pickens is going to go wild and he's going to have a meltdown. And can this team overcome it, or is Russell Wilson going to turn back into a pumpkin? Defense, they got to stay healthy. Highsmith went down at the end of the game. As to beat Patrick Mahomes, I feel like they have the best 4-man pass rush to do it, but I don't know if their offense will be able to score because the Chiefs' defense is their strength, just like the Steelers.
Well, it'll be again. They're always tough, though, as you know. One of the toughest teams in the NFL. Like always,
I hate them with so much passion.
They're just one of those annoying franchises. 16-7 now. I got Texans. A couple field goals there. They got the lead against the Lions here. So anybody tuning in there, what we got? About 4:07 left before halftime there. So if you're joining us there watching that game, Talking the Gridiron here, Variety Sports Network here on a Veterans Day weekend. Hey, I don't have work tomorrow. We'll take that as a positive with that too. So I think Jimmy's in the same. Yeah. Oh, well, maybe he's got school tomorrow though.
No, I had 2 snow days at the end of last week though, so I can't really complain.
All right, so you got that. You got the 2 snow days.
I got a random 3-day week.
Work myself, so
I don't worry about snow days out here. Me and Johnson don't get any snow days. We know that.
Yeah, the concept of canceling school for snow is foreign to you guys.
Yeah, that doesn't happen around here. That's no chance. All right, Josh Allen and the Bills. They get the win over the Colts. The Bills continue to look I'm trying. I don't know where to put these guys with it. I'm having a hard time placing my trust in them. We talked about maybe like how we are. Like it's like almost. It's just a weird deal with them. I'm having, and then next week they play Kansas City. They host Kansas City, and next Sunday. I feel like Jimmy, you're in the same boat where that if they win that, you're maybe turning the tide a little bit. Or we just talked about KC because they're very vulnerable. So the Bills need to win this one, right?
When I was going through the games and putting my stuff together, the one thing that I kept coming back to with Buffalo is that they're still on the same level as Baltimore as the next team that can possibly challenge the Chiefs, especially this season, since the Bengals are not going to be in it record-wise and probably won't. But it is I think that right now it's do or die. They have to prove it, and they haven't looked great, but they're still winning games. Their division is god-awful, so they have that going for them. They can kind of slowly figure themselves out. If they are still playing this way in about a month, I'd say by December, if they haven't figured out how to consistently run the football, how to make sure that they can throw the football, Josh Allen can't go out there with no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Yes, he can run and do all those things. He is your leader. I'm not saying anything like that. They have to play a true NFL-style offense and shore up some of the defense. Like just play an actual 60-minute football game. Like even today, there were parts of this game where they're not playing 60 minutes and they let a Colts team who Joe Flacco threw 3 interceptions today stick around in a situation I don't think that they should have been. This should have been an absolute mollywhopping, and it was only a 10-point game.
The Bills, one of the weirder teams out there. They get the Flacco 4 turnover performance. Johnson, he looked he's toast. I mean, I don't know. He's not toast, but I mean, it is what it is. The Bills, this is a game they should have won. And they got the job done. Allen continues to make a case, maybe for a little MVP push if he can. The Bills looking like this, like I said, this. How do you look at it, Brian? Like if they lose again Sunday, it's just kind of the same old typical Bills, right?
Yeah, I mean they need to come out and it needs to be a competitive game. If they end the Kansas City undefeated streak, then you gotta say they're a legit AFC threat.
See, it's got to be more than competitive to me. They have to win. This is a game where I feel like if you're their fan base, I don't know if I was their fan, and that.
Let me ask you this because if they have to win, think about the other team that we always talk about, the Ravens. The Ravens were within 7 points. So if the Bills beat the Chiefs, does that mean that you think the Bills are better than the Ravens, or do you have more faith in the Ravens? I think that the Bills have fallen so far back that even if they beat the Chiefs, they still aren't necessarily given a whole lot of faith to beat Baltimore in that case if they end up knocking the Chiefs off.
I'll give you that. I just feel like it because of the run the Bills are on, and because of the history they have between the two of them, and you have Allen, who's considered a top 3 quarterback by most people, or top 4, whatever, top 5. Let's just put it that way if you want to go stretch it that far. And they have just not been able to get over the hump against them for whatever way. It would just feel like a bigger loss to me than it really would be. And maybe they're going to be mature enough to be able to handle that loss. But I do feel like it's one that could kind of hurt them if they don't, especially if they blow it again or something. You know what I mean? I feel like it can't be. I just feel like it would do a lot for their the mental part of their season to finish strong and maybe finish higher in the seeding than I would even thought. Because who knows? The Ravens sometimes do fall out a little bit here at December or something like that. They'll kind of lose a few games. So there is a chance the Bills could sneak ahead of them. And if they won, who knows? The 1 seed's still up for grabs and you have the advantage over the Chiefs. So there is something a little bit you're playing for. So I don't know. They don't have to win till playoffs. I get you. They don't have to win till that, but I just feel like it's a big psychological game.
I think it was the smartest thing for me to draft Josh Allen in my fantasy league because I'm sitting 8-1 right now. So
he's not a bad quarterback for that. He does those running touchdowns are always a good thing.
Yeah, he's a better quarterback than Brock Purdy, that's for sure.
Oh,
Brock Purdy. Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. You're right.
Sitting me at 2-6. McCaffrey coming back might help. I just don't want to come in last. I don't want to run a mile in a suit. That's not appealing to me.
Allen and the fantasy numbers with the running is just too much for somebody like Purdy. Purdy doesn't get enough of the running TDs too. What do you guys think? We talked about it real quick. We'll just touch on it real quick. That's the Vikings. They get the win against the Jaguars over Mac Jones. They continue. And then I also have the Eagles. They get the win. They crush the Dakless Cowboys. So either one of them, we got 2 The Vikings just
God,
continue to be they look fraudulent.
Mac Jones looked pathetic.
What was that on that first down throw? You have a chance to win it, and you just like throw up like a grenade, and like literally it just comes right down to the defensive back. He's like, "Oh, thank you." You know what I mean? I don't know what that was. Just like, what are we doing? And the Jaguars and those helmets were throwing me off. Just say it a little bit. So that was part of the deal too.
It looked like UCF with Blake Bortles.
It did. It did look like the Blake Bortles one. That's a good call there. But
and for the Cowboys, you're going to have a really bad year. You're going to lose Trey Lance at the end of the year. Just play him and see what you're going to get. You're going to have a crappy year anyways. I don't see the point of playing Cooper Rush.
you don't like those fumble snaps? Those don't get you excited when you see the fumble snap.
The thing about, like, everybody keeps talking about he's 6-1 as a starting quarterback for the Cowboys. The Cowboys were a much better roster 2 years ago than they are this year.
Yes.
And Cooper Rush was able to guide that team to a few wins. He's not able to do that. He sucks. I'm not taking anything away from this game for the Eagles. They could have rolled out all of their backups and probably still made this a 2-score game.
Yeah.
The fact that it was 34-6 is just insult to injury. That was just a rivalry thing. They wanted to beat up on their division rival.
And this is what happens when you go and get for your running back Elliott. You can't get anybody else.
Well, they could have got Big Henry there. That Henry would have maybe made a little difference, but probably not based on how this team's been performing this year. The Vikings, they continue just I guess as you would say, just chalk up the dub, right? They just chalk it up. Yeah. It's as ugly a game as you can win. It looked like they should have lost it. They definitely should have lost.
Didn't score an offensive touchdown.
Three interceptions, 3 turnovers, 0 offensive touchdowns. Usually that results in a loss. Probably, I got to guess, 95% of the time in the NFL.
Yeah, Jefferson did not look happy on the sidelines.
He got to win. Suck it up, buddy. Be like Devontae Adams.
You got to win. You're talking about a wide receiver here. A wide receiver. They'd rather lose 16 games but catch 3,000 footballs than actually win anything.
What do you mean? I got 6 receptions and 41 yards, and I got to win. Nope, I don't. And what was that? 4.2 average or whatever. We don't want that. I get you. That's what happened with Adams.
It's like Damian Lillard on the Bucks right now. He wants the touches. He wants to be on a shit team.
Brian bringing out the NBA fact of the week. I like that. We get that. So you got the Eagles. Like I said, I kind of like your thought on that, Jimmy. It's kind of we're not going to call it a real win.
I still think Nick Sirianni is too emotional to be a head coach. That's what his downfall is. It's not. I don't know anything about his scheme knowledge or how he motivates people. He's just so volatile one week from another. And if it's a good, and his emotion like never really matches what happened on the field. Like you barely beat Cleveland and you go shit talk one of your own fans who made the trip out there, but then you have a pretty shitty game and you come out and say how proud you are of the team. Like your reaction doesn't match the moment. You don't know what you're doing. You seem a little psychotic. Like you're a little Britney Spears at this moment where she's broken up with Kevin Federline and you shaved your head already. Unless you're about to release Toxic, I don't want to hear anything about you.
Jimmy went TMZ on us. I love it.
I like it. We like TMZ Jimmy a little bit. You know who at TMZ is was the Saints coach saying he plugged the toilet up before the game there, and they get the win versus the Falcons.
Only an Italian kid would actually admit to that. Like, listen, it wasn't me. I just had a little bit too much, and it's gonna be a shitty day because I clogged the fucking toilet. All right?
Exactly the way he said it. Derek Carr, I liked his speech after the game saying Allen was with them today. He was part of the team today, Brian. Just saying that Dennis Allen was there for him, Brian.
Let's pull up some of Chris Olave's tweets because I actually don't like Derek Carr at the moment right now.
I've told you, I've been saying it for a while. They win 20-17 over the rival Falcons. The Falcons, tough loss. And when we were already saying, right, you're the Falcons, you'll do bad things, and then you come out. I know you're on the road against the Saints, but I don't know. You got to win that game. That's one where I can't take you serious now for a little bit moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, how far? Like, this is a realistic question. How far can you really go with Kirk Cousins, anyways?
Jimmy, you answer that real quick. I just got to help myself with that real quick.
No, I think that his history, he plays really well in the regular season, going all the way back to Washington. When he gets into playoff situations, he had one win as the underdog against New Orleans in the wild card round.
Yeah, I remember that one.
there's really not that much to go off of. The only reason why we give him as much credit as we do is because he gets paid like he's supposed to be, and he's one of the first quarterbacks to introduce guaranteed contracts into the CBA. But this team has flaws, and the fact that Younghoe Koo couldn't hit the broadside of a barn today with any of his kicks, there's a lot that you can chalk up to. Maybe it's 1 week and you'll be able to bounce back. I go back to last year when we were talking about the Browns. Like, everybody was saying, oh, well, once they get to the playoffs, they'll fix all these issues. In the NFL, you don't fix issues when you get to the playoffs. If they're not corrected before, they get actually magnified and they make it worse. So if Kirk Cousins is throwing for 300 yards and interception and losing you football games in the regular season, that's only going to get worse in the playoffs.
No doubt.
Yeah. I hope somebody's spinning Rooney's on Kirk Cousins.
Five times.
I saw some funny segment where him and the Rock, he made the Rock do the Rock-a-Rooney. I saw that was kind of the Rock-a-Rooney.
Have you seen the Take-a-Rooney?
The what?
The Take-a-Rooney.
No, I haven't seen the Take-a-Rooney.
When Booker T got Undertaker to do it after, I think The Rock also had.
Oh, I have. You're right. Okay, I got you. Yes. I was trying to figure Undertaker. That's funny. I'll have to look that one up again. I missed that one. So yeah, you have the Saints there. It is what it is. It's just a big loss for the Falcons. I was listening to a little bit of John and Mike on their show, just for a little bit out of your Falcon mind. Kind of, they're just. It's funny. They're kind of like, yeah. They're kind of. Well, it's kind of like, seems like they're they're trying to be positive about it, but they also know they can kind of, like Brian said, there's some writing on the wall a little bit there with it. So I think there's some of that with it.
They're like, if you know dark comedy, Christopher Titus is a great stand-up comedian, but he's got a great bit where he's like, dysfunctional people, we have the issues growing up, but all you normal people, when you see shit coming at the fan, you don't do anything. But us dysfunctional people, we know to get out of the way of the fan. And then we watch it. Let's wipe you off here. Let's clean you up. You shouldn't have stood there, huh? You got to move next time. I feel like that's how most of the Falcons, after the 28-3, how can you not be that cynical about life? Just like, step out of the way. The meteor's going to crush the house. All right, let's start building the house back up again.
There's negative vibes there. There's definite negative vibes there with it. Afternoon delight, Jimmy. Should we get to some? Should we get to a little after? We had a few.
A whole bunch of blowouts.
Well, we have one that we could definitely we get a little thoughts on here. We get the blowout. We get the Cardinals beating the Jets here. Murray, nice little play to Marvin Harrison Jr. here. A little fade route there. They get the win. They had a fumble as well. They recovered.
Stuck or what? Why is Kyler Murray playing so well?
He's on fire right now. I feel like he's comfortable for the first time. He's got a unreal rookie wide receiver, Jimmy. That probably helps, right? When you feel like you can throw to him. Actually, at times, I would think, and their tight ends come on a little bit too.
Well, McBride has been great. He's been killing it for my fantasy team. Everything that you said stands. Do you know the story of James Conner, the running back that they have?
I know he was on Pittsburgh, obviously. Before,
He was originally drafted to Pittsburgh. He went to college at Pittsburgh. He, as a freshman, kind of burst onto the scene, had almost about 1,000 yards rushing. Sophomore year, he's getting ready. He plays like a month, and then he goes down and he physically can't get through a practice. It turns out he has leukemia, very not advanced stage, but like enough that they had to aggressively pursue chemo. Fights it for 2 years, beats it, comes back as like a sixth-year senior because of the medical red shirt and being pulled out of school, and then makes it to the NFL after all of that. So he's already been through this incredibly insane task, achieving a dream that not everybody is able to achieve. And what the commentators were saying today when they were at practice, like, everybody goes through James Conner, because who else would you rather get advice from? Like, a guy who's been that close to something like that, you need to go to him. He's going to figure out the right way to go about this. And he is getting this team behind Rich Gannon. Like, that was Rich Gannon is coach of the year as of right now. That is my if you want to call it a hot take, you can call it a hot take. I don't think it's that hot of a take right now. Rich Gannon is coach of the year, especially if they finish with a winning record and make their way into the playoffs. This is a better team than even I was anticipating. I said they were going to be a tough team at the beginning of the season. This is a better team than I was anticipating at the beginning of the year.
You call it a little bit just a big. It is. I do love Rich Gannon. It is John Gannon. Though his name for the
Yeah, John. I said Gannon. I just wrote down Gannon
You
in my
said
notes.
Rich. I'm gonna let Rich Gannon go. We need positive
Coach
vibes.
of the year. Coach of the year.
I'm gonna need John Gannon. I know he's been great. Like David said, 17 consecutive. Murray was awesome. He really was. The Jets, like I said last week, this was a make or break for the Jets. Their season to me is now goodbye, good night. Goodbye, Felicia. Aaron Rodgers. Whoa, the Jets. I mean, they just the bags over.
What other chess moves do they have? Because they fired the coach.
They got none.
Actually, before that, they brought in the Hall of Fame quarterback. They fired the coach. They brought in the All-Pro receiver.
Aaron Rodgers is crying. He's going to Oregon, right, Brian? I mean, this is everything you've dreamed of. You're not a Rodgers guy, and he's folded again. This is something I got to think you got to enjoy that. But I also know you got to be a little nervous. You got to be a little nervous, Brian. They're coming on strong. They do look good. They got a running game, and they did beat you.
Purdy's going to come with a rifle, and he's going to take that Cardinal out.
You got to have you and David Mays here duking it out.
That is my favorite divisional race so far of this season right now is the NFC West.
It is going to be a good one. It's going to be because with the Niners losing those two that they shouldn't have lost, and the Cardinals kind of outdoing expectations. Obviously, the next time you play them, it's a massive game because they already beat you the first time.
The 49ers aren't going to lose again because Nick Bosa doesn't have to campaign anymore. He's not on the campaign trail, so that should help him out a little bit.
He's out there with it. He did the dance.
He did that Trump dance after the sack.
I did see that. I saw that. I had a few people there. I also had Herbert gets the win there. He looks good against the Titans. They move again. They get a win they should have easily gotten.
The Titans quarterback situation is the worst I've ever seen. I've never seen a quarterback situation worse because that team is not bad outside of them. Outside of the one position, they're not that bad of a team.
Levis is. I keep wondering with them, will they draft a quarterback? You know what I mean? I'm thinking they will.
I feel like they have to. How can you not?
You have to. You're right. I mean, so you have Malik Willis. They have him now. They have they're in the position where they definitely need one. Where was Purdue and Arizona won in Santa Clara? Yes, we do have that. Levis has a pocket. Rev, good to see you out there. Has a pocket presence of a deer in the headlights.
Rev knows about deers in headlights. Where we went to college, we had to dodge about 10 of them. They just stare you down from 200 feet. Like, I hope you're insured.
Have you guys seen
every time I see those Mayo commercials?
Yes, I was like, how did he get a commercial?
I just laugh at them. I go, "You're the next
game day, be delicious."
Brian, that's a great call. I was just thinking, I was like, the world is just making a commercial out there. Yeah.
Isn't Will Levis kind of the quarterback, the Mayo equivalent of quarterbacks? Because Mayo is not like your top of condiment. It's every once in a while you sneak a little bit of mayo on something. It's it's a summer thing. But in the winters and the falls, what are you putting mayo on besides maybe like a BLT?
We get a little mayo.
Am I calling cowherd enough today? I feel
you got a little coward in you today. We're all right with that. So you said just to make it clear. So the Niners play the Seahawks this coming week. The Cardinals have a bye, and then they play the Seahawks. So kind of an interesting couple weeks here in the NFC West where a lot will be turned. It's just kind of odd that you have that matchup there. The Cardinals play that, and then they go. This is their schedule. Very doable here, Brian. Until they play you guys. They play you on January 5th, the last game of the season. They go Seahawks, Vikings, Seahawks, Patriots, Panthers, Rams. So, and not the toughest schedule you see. So it'll be interesting how they do till they meet you guys. Could it be for the division on January 5th? So we'll see if the Cardinals could hang in there that long. But you guys were speaking of Mayo. Gerard Mayo and the Patriots do get the win. I mean, if you're a Bills fan, my goodness, you got to be, or a Bears fan. That's as pathetic a performance you can have at home. And seriously, that's just one of the worst performances you can have ever. And then Jimmy, just to kind of add on top of that, with it, you guys brought up. I saw you tweeted it out a little bit too, as kind of in the or maybe Nico.
That was Nico.
Nico tweeted, but he says Bo Nix is kind of on the rookie quarterback thing because that was part of with May winning today. Bo Nix has easily been the second best quarterback this year from the class, and it isn't even close. He's been better than everyone not named Stroud from last year's draft too. So I'm assuming he's thinking Daniels has been better for Washington. I'm assuming that's the case.
I would say he's giving Daniels the benefit of the doubt.
So do you think Bo is May better than Bo, or do you think would you take?
It depends. I mean, do you want 350-yard passing games with a couple of interceptions and a couple touchdowns, or do you want 5-5 record 10 weeks into the season when everybody was debating whether or not you win more than 4.5?
That's fair.
So I think that with where the Patriots are and where the Broncos are, they're in kind of different places. The Broncos are in the second year of the coaching tenure. They're trying to figure out how much the personnel has been absolutely just nobody has robbed some city worse than Russell Wilson in a very long time, because we're so decimated financially that we have to rely on Devon Bailey and Lil Jordan Humphrey and Cortland Sutton, and we can't get anybody else in no weapons, and our defense is all no-name guys that are just playing a scheme. I think that Bo's been better than Caleb. Caleb's now a losing quarterback. They haven't scored on 22 straight offensive possessions. Bo Nix is at least getting his team in positions to win the game, and Bo Nix damn near killed the GOAT today because he made a hell of a play to get the first down. He made that a 33 to 37-yard field goal, which is all you ask for as a head coach and as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of found that funny when I saw that. I was like, all right, I like that, Nico. I thought Jimmy, I was like, I like that little calling it out there. Since Stroud too,
I think we're having the Caleb from USC last year pouting on the sidelines, and things aren't going his way. And that's why I've never been a big Caleb Williams guy.
Ooh, this comment by Rev kind of Brian, to your point. Caleb has the most receiver help this offseason.
He's pissed the most receivers off and sent them to the locker room early.
Yeah.
Like DJ Moore walked to the locker room early because he hates playing with him so much.
He does. I mean, I just saw that real quick. We got Texans up there, 23-7 now, gentlemen. Going into look like halftime, so we'll get to enjoy the second half here. Rarely on a Talk of the Gridiron, but we'll do that as well here. But we'll see that. So I don't know that I like that question that Nico posed though a little bit. I think right now it's fair. Bo. I will say this: he has definitely outplayed my expectations, but he does have moments where you're like he does have that where you're like
sacks today, like fix those fucking sacks, kid.
Yeah, that was bad.
You do not. You either throw that ball out of bounds or you don't run 10 yards back. You're not fast enough in the NFL. Nobody at the NFL level is fast enough. Not even Lamar goddamn Jackson can run 10 yards backward and then go 40 yards forward. So stop trying. Stop asking because it ain't changing.
It's not going to happen, man. Move on from there. I just wanted to point out that real quick before I totally move on from the game and the afternoon delight. This hit that Murray took was pretty darn legit from Williams. I think it was on the sideline there, or from boom. I mean, that's as good that was old school Madden type of hit right there. You see it with the boom. We got that. Man, he got absolutely just crushed on that one. So I thought that was definitely worth a highlight.
That little boy ate it like a champ. He looks like a toddler playing against like a group of grown men out there.
He does look like that for sure. Last one here before I get to some other stuff here around the NFL and football world. I guess more my question to you, because involving the game in Germany with David Hasselhoff. Did David Hasselhoff do the coin toss? Was he out there for doing that? Was David out there for it? So they get the win, the Panthers. But more my question is Dabo, he's 8-19. Just real quick, Brian, does he survive the season? Do the Giants usually allow their coaches to do, but they are looking pretty crappy. 8-19 since last year. Does he survive?
Not right now, just because I mean, yeah.
So you think he'll get fired?
Yeah, but I mean, the other guy that should get fired is McCarthy.
Well, yeah, McCarthy will too. He'll get fired at the end of the year probably. But
he licks Jerry Jones' boots, so he's not going to get fired anytime soon.
Yeah, a snake in my boot. What do you got, Jimmy? You think he gets fired before season's end, or does he make it to the end?
He shouldn't, because he would have been able to do something with this team. The Giants are the most arrogant ass fan base, just like every other team in New York. The Mets, the Yankees, the Jets, the Rangers, the Islanders. You're arrogant as shit.
If you're a Jets fan and you're arrogant, you are in bad shape right now.
Well, you all pumped your championships from 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. For the Giants, you're pumping your championship from 2011 when Eli went off and won you something. What a catch. What have you done ever since? What have you done ever since except draft Daniel Jones? And he's the shittiest quarterback that's been drafted since that class.
It was a terrible pick. What are the
What
worst?
what would be the cap hit if they draft a quarterback and they just cut Daniel Jones outright?
It'd probably be a pretty good size, but my guess is
I'll find it.
that's going to be
I'll
what they
find
have
it.
to do. That's what Dable should get another chance with a new QB. I think he has. They
That's
have a convenient
Rebit
opt-out next.
speaking my mind, because in my mind, I'm like, this is an ownership issue. And the fact that they're making Brian Daboll, who could probably do something with this team, if given the right pieces around him, you have to play this 27-year-old waste of space who's been getting more money than God to do nothing. Like,
And you see Barkley tearing it up with the Eagles. In your
his
own
dead
division,
cap
right?
money, if they cut him next season, would be $22.2 million.
So that's doable in a trade.
That's not too bad.
I always say the cap. What was it? The cap is the cap. The NFL teams make it work. If they want to make it work, they get it done somehow to get the job done. I think there's a chance based on what you just said. Rev, you bring up a good point. Should miss a new QB? But I think a lot of Dennis Allen. Does he get a new
Those
QB?
dumbass wops in New York are gonna look at this season and go, Dable doesn't know how to coach. Listen to me. I'm the guy who stole the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove. He doesn't know how to coach. We got to fire his ass. We got to bring in somebody new. Danny Dimes will be able to get it done. I guarantee you. He'll be able to do it. And if he can't do it, my boy Tommy D behind him will be able to do it. And we don't need this fancy quarterback. Whatever. We won a Super Bowl in 2011.
I would flood the toilet to the
The only franchise that flaunts old championships more than the Giants are the Bears.
Oh gosh, 1985 Bears. What a performance by the fridge out there. What player is having a better season than you predicted? Like if you had one just in your mind where you're thinking like, all right, this guy he's gonna come out. He's had a better year than for me, we kind of talked about it. It's Kyler Murray for sure. He's on my list of like guys where I was like, wow, I thought he was kind of not dumb, but I just thought, I don't know. I was, and then of course it's Jordan Mason for the Niners. Like those two guys, I would have never predicted. He's been out of his mind, but I think Murray, I do have to give him a little credit for. He has surprised me this year with that. And then your boy, and he's not surprising, but he's been tearing it up too. Is Hendrickson in Cincinnati? He's been damn good defensive end. Brian, do you have a player?
I would definitely say I didn't think Jaden Daniels would be this good, so I say Jaden Daniels.
That's a good call. I never would have thought
sure
that.
I said Jaden Daniels was going to be a big bust, and everybody was going to try and draft him to repeat the Stroud thing, and he's repeating the Stroud thing. So that was a bad take that I've had in the past. That was not good.
Do you have a player that sticks out to you? Is it Bo Nix, maybe?
I mean, Nix has played better than I think a lot of people expected, and even through the growing pains, I think that what I hear around town and what I think I feel and what I know Nico feels is like, all of this is worth trying again, but if next year, if the talent doesn't get better, then you're at the risk of losing Sean Payton the next season, and George Payton, if he doesn't draft anybody and develop and get some guys in here in free agency that can help out the team, then he needs to be gone and they need a new GM, especially with the new ownership group. I think the player for me specifically, it's a little bit off the wall, and you have to really be paying attention to realize how good he's playing. But like Kyle Hamilton and Jesse Bates, probably the two best safeties in the league right now. I'd say best safety in the AFC and best safety in the NFC. Those two guys are so – if you have a really good safety, they come into the game in ways that you'd never expect, like a outside run that's going for about 2 yards and there's the big pile coming up. If you have a really good safety, he's running in there. He's punching that thing out. You're getting extra turnovers. That's what those two guys have been doing so far this season. They've been absolute monsters. And when Kyle Hamilton went down on Thursday, the Bengals were able to score a lot more and a lot easier than they did before he was and when he was playing. So
that's a good call right there. The safeties, I always say, is one of the more underrated. I want to go next to this. I was trying to figure out how to frame this with you guys, but can the QB trio right now of Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen ever surpass Brady, Manning, and Rodgers? And so I know that right on the surface it's like no way, but Mahomes is, he's starting to make a little climb here, and Lamar and Allen obviously have to win their Super Bowls, but it took Manning a while to win one. Rodgers got one early, then never won it since. Just kind of formulating this kind of thought in my mind before just thinking about football and like thinking of these three guys, and like they're just so dominant at that position right now in the AFC over everybody else's team. It feels like. How do you guys does that seem fair to you? Does that seem? What do you think, Jimmy? That. Thanks for tuning in, David. Appreciate it. Yes. You go Cardinals. We'll see you next week. I hope to be on when Brian come back on January 5th. Brian, and I can't wait for that game with it. So David, have a good rest of your weekend, man. There. Yo, Jimmy.
I just don't know, like the way that the quarterback position had to be played when the last generation was coming into the league, and they got a little bit of the benefit of it. But when they were all first starting, like there's clips of Brady getting his head ripped off, Rodgers getting absolutely pummeled, and Manning had a broken neck before he left Indianapolis. These other three quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, are not getting injured unless they're running on their own.
No,
they're not getting body slammed and pile driven. Like that's why it's hard and why I don't like to do it. I don't like to compare generations because most of these guys didn't have the adversity that the three of the older generation, Brady, Manning, and Rodgers, all had a lot of adversity the first couple of years of their career. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen have all been pretty much studs and phenoms since they took over their teams, making it to the playoffs, never having a really bad losing season. You know, a lot of people like to forget that Peyton Manning was 3-13 as a rookie. And
so let me ask you this then, because that's fair. I get you're saying it's hard to compare eras. It's really 80s. Those guys are getting killed, or I get it. But we'll have a little fun here within this sense of it. I guess was they are the best trio I think that we've had since those three. I mean, maybe Drew Brees.
Yeah, well, I mean, Drew Brees, Joe Burrow should be in there before Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. But
I could have put Drew Brees and then put Burrow in there, but that's the whole reason I have.
Well, I mean, I don't know what Drew Brees won a Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow has actually made it to a Super Bowl outside of two of the other guys from this generation. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe it should be Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Brock Purdy.
Just don't blow games on Thursday night to Lamar Jackson.
He didn't blow that game. Taylor blew that game.
Get the 2-point conversion. Get your job done. Come on, man. Get your
4 personal foul penalties on one play that didn't get called. That you can literally get a screenshot.
They missed like a really bad face mask. I mean, that was terrible.
There was 3 of them. One guy had hands in the face on the offensive lineman. One guy had Burrow's face mask, and the other guy had the other offensive lineman's face mask.
Those damn purple uniforms. They got them. They want the NFL. They have it rigged with it.
I was laughing my ass off, and you know what's really funny? I had Jamar Chase on one of my fantasy teams. I played against him on my other fantasy team.
That one probably a little tougher to win. That one, I'm guessing this week with it. That was probably a little tougher. All right, hey, what bad team is in the best position to turn it around quickly and finish strong going into 2025? So I kind of jumped back to a couple years ago with the Lions. Right, they were remember they finished strong, beat the Packers. I think I remember doing the show with you, Jimmy, on that Sunday night to end the regular season. And we're like, oh, they're going to make a big push. They eliminated the Packers that year. They didn't make the playoffs, but they eliminated them. And then they've kind of been on fire since that year.
Definitely the Bengals.
The Bengals are on this push right there. I like that. That's a good call with that. Now, the one thing with the Bengals, they kind of have a history. So in the sense of, I think people are kind of expecting them to turn around. So I like that call there with it.
They had some people predicting them to win their division, so I don't necessarily know if they qualify this year, but maybe next year. I'll give you my team. It's the Carolina Panthers because of what I don't know if it's going to continue the rest of this season because I was looking up their schedule as I was taking my notes. And I've actually watched them up close and in person because that was the game that I went to with Nico when we used his seats and we watched the Broncos and the Panthers play. They are terribly under-talented, and they look like a high school team outside of Bryce Young, who is getting more comfortable as he's playing more games. I don't think that he was ready to start as a 100% first day, go from the jump starter. I think what we're seeing now is Canales is using the scheme. Like Chuba Hubbard is not a good enough running back to break 10 tackles on big runs, but he's getting these big and long runs because the scheme is working and they're getting guys in the right spot and they have the leverage at these certain positions, which is really nerdy offensive lineman running scheme stuff. But when I see that, and I see that Canales is now taking all the data that they've gathered from the first quarter and a half of the season, like, okay, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. But Leggett can fucking play. Bryce Young can make a couple different moves. I have Chuba Hubbard to rely on. Like, the coaching is getting better. So I see the coaching going in the right direction. They are gearing up with some more draft picks. They're going to have a lot of capital. We all know that they're going to be drafting pretty high because of the way that they suck. If Tepper can stay out of his own way, I can see Carolina being one of those bad teams that kind of turns it around a little bit faster.
I think the Raiders, when they get O'Connell back, though, but no, I'm just kidding.
AOC.
Okay. Tampa could bounce back. They could. I mean, they've played tough. Let's put that with Tampa. We saw that with KC. We saw that today with the Niners. They're definitely going to go out and play tough. This was kind of a hard one for me. I was trying to think through like what team would. I guess it is the Dolphins for me. Just because they have 2 in there, but I don't see it being the case. I don't think this year is going to be it. So I like your call with the Panthers or with the Panthers there on that one. I think that's, and then the other team for me it would be the Broncos. Can they finish tough? But right now they are still in a playoff position if they wanted to. So it's kind of hard from that standpoint. So
40 percentage point swing by losing today. By the way, if they won, they have a 75% chance of making the playoffs. They lost, and now they go down to a 30% chance of making it.
I don't think we cross. Is there anybody we crossed off the list today? I feel like we did pretty good with it last week. We covered. We even added the Bengals to it that we keep.
Did we put the Bears on there?
The Bears
got to go on there because
should we add the Bears?
We got to add the Bears. They gave up 9 sacks today.
Yeah, and you lose to the Patriots at home. I think that deserves it, right, Johnson? I think that
ever since the Hail Mary played, they haven't responded as a team, and the coach is a dweeb. The coach has nothing of that locker room. The fact that DJ Moore walked off the field, I've had so many coaches that if I tried to walk off the field in the middle of a play, I'd have had my ass kicked before I made it to the numbers.
You wouldn't even made it that
I
far.
wouldn't have made it past the hash marks. I would have been down on the field, and they would have been on top of like the old Batman. You want what he's having? That's what I thought.
You know what other team I'm thinking, Jimmy, is the Colts might belong on here now. I think the Colts.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to switch back to Anthony Richardson.
Or do we wait a week?
Let's let them switch back to Anthony Richardson and have him lose another game, throwing 9 for 23, and then we can put him back on the list.
I feel like the Colts definitely are. We got to have the Browns on there, right? Yeah, the Browns are there. Good. So we got the Browns. So all right. So I think that's next. It was next week. Do we add the Colts? Those Colts, do they make the list, Johnson? Next week, I think there's a good chance. If you're out in the Twitter world and you know what I'm talking about with this guy that does like these Twitter, like every week he puts out a song for the shoe is like this thing. It's like the
this
latest.
Is our Colts. This is our team.
If there was one I saw,
blue.
I almost want to play it on there. I should try to get it on here.
This is our Colts, whether win or lose.
Should I get it on here, Jim? It's inappropriate, but I should get it on here. Whatever.
Beat Broncos. Let's show them who the real horse is.
It's so lame.
Go Colts.
It's so lame. Okay, it's gonna be a little inappropriate, but I gotta get it on there. You mentioned it once, so I gotta do it on here. Like this, it cracked me up because I saw this right before I came on, and it was the Bills because the Bills. You can tell some Bills media outlet put this on, but here it is. I don't. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. It just cracked me up given that the Colts lost today.
For the shoe, beat the Bills. Let's prove we're the Colts Mafia.
Shut up, bitch.
I just thought that was my favorite.
Jokes on all of us because that guy just got free Super Bowl tickets this year because he won Fan of the Year for the Colts. But that was beautiful. That was gold.
That was just when I saw that today. I was trying to show my wife. I was like, even you got to find this funny. She's like, oh, it's pretty funny. She's like, shut up, bitch. I always love the guy in the Rangers uniform in the back where he's like, I always that part of that video always cracks me up in low key in that one. But Cowboys got to go on. Oh, do we add the Cowgirls? I think you're right.
Oh yeah.
Rad,
because Cooper Rush is going to be playing the rest of the season because Dak is having season-ending hamstring.
They're definitely
injury.
Rev, you got to get back on the show next week. Are you available? Come on, join us Sunday next week. We can let me know if you're available. I'll reach out to you. I always love your football takes with it, especially the Steelers. I mentioned, are they legit Super Bowl threats?
Rev, we got to put out the same vibes. We got to hope CSU Pueblo loses and Western wins this week, so we win the RMAC and they don't. We also don't want them to have the number 1 seed in the D2 playoffs. College football, baby.
College football there. They were almost there. I got here in just a second with it. So we got that with it. Best week 11 matchups, just real quick. There's a lot of good ones next week. We talked about it with the Bills and the Chiefs. Obviously, next week is going to be the marquee matchup of week 11. No doubt about it. You have a Thursday night game is good, though, too. You have Commanders, Eagles. That will be a good game as well. So, and then Brian, you have Raiders, Dolphins. I mean, who doesn't want to see that? So you have that. So you have no, just kidding. You got that. So those are the big ones. Then you have Ravens at Revs Steelers. Always a classic AFC North matchup. And then like Sunday night game is Bengals Chargers. He said Niners Seahawks will be a little bit of a big game too. And then Monday night, those Texans are back on primetime versus those eliminated Cowboys we just put on the list. So that's kind of a little bit of a look ahead to Week 11 there. A couple juicy games there, especially with the AFC there.
Stroud just threw a pick. So,
oh boy, where are we at, Johnson? Pick 6?
You better lose yourself in the music.
No, he didn't.
It's not a pick 6, but it's a pick. That Houston's up 23-7 right now.
All right, I'll get up on the big board here in just a second. So, what do you make of that next week? You got your any of those matchups? Is it Chiefs Bills? That's the only one that really matters next week.
Not
Ravens
the only one that
Steelers
really
is big.
matters.
Ravens Steelers is big. That's a big one.
Ravens Steelers is big one because that would be for possible tie of the lead of the division. I'm also looking at the Falcons and Broncos because Broncos win and then they're the same record as the Falcons and they're in a better chance for. We talked about the percentages already. Now you basically just have to continue to win so that your percentages don't continue to go down. The Broncos being able to beat the Falcons and you come off a 2. Think about it. They went to Baltimore and then Kansas City. Like 2 of the most brutal road trips to go on. And you're going to get the shit beat out of you in both those games. And, the Ravens did, and they took care of them. They handled them. Come back home, beat a Falcons team that seems to be reeling, get back to 6-5, see whatever happens after that. Like the season, this is the beautiful part of the 17-week season. This is also the beautiful part of what we're about to talk about with college football, with the expanded playoffs and the fact that 14 teams make it from both sides. Relax. You lost.
I will
if your
say,
team is in a good record, bounce back, win next week.
Relax. We got Pittsburgh has won 7 of 8 last games. They have, and like that's impressive. You win that much. I mean, you're probably.
I would like Bane to go to the Baltimore Pittsburgh game and have that entire stadium just fall underneath the middle of the earth, and then those 2 franchises don't exist anymore. And then we never have to worry about the Steelers and the Ravens playing ever again.
Brian, a little shout out. We did a little Batman talk today this morning on that as well. All right, so this just to let you guys know what this is like. So you have the 1 and 2 seeds in the AFC, 9 going at it, and then you have the 3 and the 4 seeds basically going at the AFC. So that's how good these matchups are next week between those AFC
and
teams.
You figure Seattle's going to come to play because they don't want to get swept. Because if they lose their Niners, they lose 2 straight. So
it'll be a big game for your Niners. They have to, especially with the Cardinals putting on heat right now. You don't want to lose another division game there that you should win on the road. Speaking of should win in the NFC West, I don't know. Rams 2.5 points favorites tomorrow night. The Rams looking to extend that winning streak, looking to be a threat in the NFC West. Dolphins aim to end that skid. Who do you guys like, the Rams or the Dolphins to get the win tomorrow night in LA?
This hurts me so much, but I'm going to go with the Rams.
The Rams were there. All right, I like that with it.
I'm thinking the Rams too, just because Puka is probably not going to punch anybody and get kicked out of tomorrow's game, I would assume. So we didn't even pick this game on our show. Like we normally try and do all the primetime games, but that's been a lot of Jets games recently this season.
God,
so now I'm just trying to pick like the 5 best. So we didn't even pick this one. Like I said, the NFC West is my favorite divisional race coming down to it. And the Dolphins, I shout out Mike McDaniel, former Cherry Creek High School alumni. Nico and I represent. But it was a terrible season for him. And I don't know what the organization is going to do, because if you tell me that, I know that you invested financially in Tua, but if you tell me that we're going to make it through the rest of the season, you're going to go into OTAs and you're like, okay, well, Tua's going to be our quarterback next year, and we're going to be just fine. Bullshit.
No. And we got
Detroit gave it right back.
Yeah, period is on the screen. Goff driving there, chance to make it a little bit of a game here. Goff, was it kind of in there? I was going to get into MVPs. We're going a little long.
He's choking now. Everybody's choking now. Clock's run out. Time's up. Over. Plow.
Man, I mean, that's a big play right here. I guarantee Dan the man would have gone for 2 to make it 23-15 if they would have got the touchdown there. So
and just so the fans need to know, we do play the Lions this year, the 49ers. So
what week is that,
right?
That's probably late.
It's after we play the Bears. So
Brian, you got to lose 3 more games to even get equal to your number of losses on the season.
You got to get there. You got to win a couple more to get there. At the winners and losers of Week 10. I'll just make mine quick. So I know Jimmy's got my winner. My winner of the week this week is I don't know how to go get. For me, it's definitely the Cardinals. Again, they just continue to. They didn't just beat the Jets, a team they destroyed them. And Kyler Murray has continued to play good football. So that to me, they're winner of the week. This one, and then loser of the week to me. I know it's gonna be a tough one, but I'm gonna go Commanders. You were up 27-21. I know it's the Steelers. That would have been a big win. But I'm gonna go Steelers a little bit of loser of the week there. Giants is too obvious in some of those teams. So I'm gonna make it a little harder and go on the Commanders. Be a little tough on them this week. Brian, what do you got for winner and loser this week?
We got definitely the winner of the week is a guy who got shot in the offseason. Is not only being an effective NFL player, but got his first touchdown of the year. Ricky, I'm gonna call him the Wolverine Pearsall. He spits out bullets like they're nothing.
He got a nice run there with it too as well. Is loser of the week Jake the Snake Moody for you? Is Jake the Snake? Did Jake almost put you in a bad moody this weekend?
No, I have to say the loser of the week is the Bears. They have the worst luck with quarterbacks.
They do look terrible. We got a guy here, turning in here. 49ers defense loser of the week once again, looking sketchy versus backed up wide receivers. Yeah, Niners D has been a little bit of concern there for sure. They got the job done enough today to make it work there. Moody though was the big key.
I want to hear from some Raiders fan. Like,
he's a Cowboys fan. He's a Cowboys fan. Is that
even worse? Come on, you already beat the shit out of your team.
Hey, Brian, you got to take it easy. Your team does have concerns. Special teams is still the biggest issue to me with your Niners team. Winner from Rev here, Chargers, sneakiest 6-3 team there. Justin Herbert and Greg Roman working as an odd couple. Yeah, they are an interesting team, but I just feel like we haven't had a chance to really dive into them too much, just kind of based on their team with it. So, Jimmy, what do you got for winners and losers here?
I'll speak on Rev's winner first. Is the Chargers. When I was talking about them and writing down my notes for today's show, it's been great. And I think that the culture has changed where you can't just assume that the Chargers are going to find a way to blow a game. I don't know how this, macho workout every day, go through full padded practices 5 days a week. How is this college coaching style going to affect the rest of the season? Because college season is almost over. So what is Jim Harbaugh going to do when it's January and everybody's beat up and you've played 15 games and you still got 2 more to go and you need to make sure that you win so that you get a good seed in the playoffs? Like, this is the team that's in a position to possibly push the Kansas City Chiefs of winning the division. You're going to have to make sure that you keep everything in a row, and you're going to have to know that you have faith in your coach who hasn't done this in a long time. He hasn't been in the NFL for a long time.
You were mentioning too is tomorrow when they're reviewing the college football bracket? Is that tomorrow?
No, I do the college football bracket each week now on our show. They release the new rankings, the College Football Playoff Committee's top 25 rankings every Tuesday. Okay,
so it's Tuesday that they have with it. What do you kind of make of? I know you kind of wanted to bring up a little bit something there with it. What do you have with the college?
Well, we did our first. If you haven't watched the video that we put out on our channel, I recommend going back through and watching. We did we picked the conference championships of Week 11. We're doing the way that the College Football Playoffs Committee is supposed to do this. They're supposed to look at everything from this week. So Week 11, who are the best teams? Look at the records. Look at who they played. They're supposed to take all the brands off so you don't see the helmets and you're just seeing like pure stats, wins, losses, everything like that. It didn't happen because Indiana was still ranked way too low. Iowa State before this weekend was still ranked too low. So I'll just give you guys my quarterfinals. Let's see if you wouldn't want to be interested in watching these. Iowa State, Oregon. Actually, my quarterfinals going back one round. That was semifinals. SMU, Iowa State, Penn State, Oregon, Indiana, Miami before they cheesed it and totally fucked Nico's college football reputation. That's why I'm the college football professor and he's just, the college football mush. And then the last one was Ohio State and Georgia in the quarterfinals.
The one team that is just shocking to me every time I hear college football is like Brian, is Indiana. How in the hell are they? I just cannot believe they are in this. And BYU might make this thing as well.
They should have lost last night. They were gifted it by the refs.
The AD was not happy about that one as well. He was not happy at that. So college football.
He was in Utah terms ticked off, which
yeah,
that could earn you a few swear dollars in the swear jar.
Well, usually the coach comes out and does it, not the AD 5 minutes after the game. So that was a little odd there too. So yeah, you guys did a great job on your last show. I always love your guys' college football segment with it. So there's going to be a lot to get into this week come Tuesday and the bracket there with it.
By the way, Oregon is my prediction for national champion as of week 11. That will change. They beat Indiana 28-24 in my national championship.
Man, Oregon, Indiana. My goodness. Who would have thought Indiana Hoosiers making a championship game?
With all 22 transfers. If you watch an Indiana football game, everybody who makes a play is a transfer from some other school.
Yeah, it's not even like they're 23-7 as we're finishing up here as we're getting the third quarter. This is kind of when we'd be starting the show, but this week we started a little bit earlier. Appreciate Rev tuning in there. I just wanted to get his comment up on here about loser of the week too. He had Falcons. Good call there, but their losers had a chance to extend the lead, Brian, like we talked about. They choke it away to Derek Carr, those Saints there. Game ball, though, I do want to mention this week. We talked about it a little bit. Jamar Chase, I mean, just an animal. My goodness.
He scored 50 against me.
Mike Brown. Pay the man. What are you waiting for, Brian? He's the best receiver. The Bengals are so freaking cheap. So cheap. They are. God, they are the cheapest.
This is Mike Brown's ringtone. This is my wallet.
Not get it. So is he getting more than Jefferson then, or no? He's not then. Or is he going to go somewhere else to get it? It's ridiculous. Pay the guy. It's stupid. Holy moly. Him and Burrow together. What do you think? Come on.
There's literally no. We've never had a precedent for this because I get that we used to have Chad Ochocinco and TJ Houshmandzadeh, but we've never had somebody that's this good at wide receiver. Never, ever. We've never had anybody this good at their position.
It's a game.
I think I actually
you got to hit and Burrow together.
I know that we weren't going to talk about this game specifically.
I just can't believe that
So Joe Burrow against the Ravens, 776 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. When I looked it up, I'm pretty sure that Jamar Chase this season has he has close to 600 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns against the Baltimore Ravens alone.
It's insane.
And they're 0-2 in those games.
I know, and they basically should be 2-0 against
They lost both those games by a total score of 4 points.
Gosh, Bengals. That sums it up this year with they've been with it. Brian, we still 23-7 there. Is that where I got with us here, Texans?
Yeah, Detroit just got in the red zone.
So Detroit entering the red zone there with it. They could see if they can let's see if they make a little push. I say they make a little push here. Goff's been a little bit off his game there tonight, though. So, all right, Talking the Gridiron in the books here. Jimmy, good show tonight. Professor of football knowledge this week joining it. Had the notes that were with us. It was fun for me this week. Kind of had finally a slow Sunday, so I was able to watch a lot of the games, like almost all of them. So it was really good to be able to do all that too. So be able to connect with you, Brian. Good to have you back on this week. Talk a little football with your Niners winning there too. Jimmy, it was good to get your insights there with Denver, kind of right there at that game versus KC. Then Brian there with the Niners. So it's kind of good to have you guys both on with that.
Everybody's going to be so pissy tomorrow. It's going to be freaking miserable. It's going to be miserable, and the weather is miserable. So everybody's just going to be pissed off. It's going to be amazing. So happy.
I appreciate Rev tuning in. Rev, come back on, man. We got to get you on here. Let me know. DM me. Let me know when you want to be available here on a Sunday and be able to make it. Appreciate you tuning in with your comments and your Steelers there. David Mays, Cardinals out there, NFL Nation chiming in the comments. Appreciate him going there with the Cardinals. Big so far off to a good start. McGurk, obviously, like that. Love him tuning in as well. So a lot of good stuff out there going on here in Talking the Gridiron. Veterans weekend, like we said as well. So appreciate all the soldiers, like we already mentioned here, Talking the Gridiron there with the Variety Sports Network. Be sure to like and subscribe. Jimmy will be back at it next week here for week 11 in the books, and we have a lot of big games. We have that Chiefs-Bills game that I'm sure will lead the way there, so we'll get into that as well. So both of you have a nice week ahead. Anybody tune in, we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the support along the way. Have a good rest of your Sunday. So for Jimmy Pilato, for Brian Johnson, I'm Darren Breyer. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.